Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about biological classification. Here we will mostly focus on 5 kingdom system of classification. This is a topic of NEET biology. So please share it with the NEET aspirants. First of all, what is biological classification? It is the process of assembling organism on the basis of similarities, dissimilarities and phylogenetic descent. That is, organisms are placed into different groups on the basis of the certain similarities, certain dissimilarities, and on the basis of the evolution, that is from the ancestors from which they are evolved. There are certain advantages of classification. Organisms are studied in a systematic manner due to the classification into different groups. It simplifies the study of organisms because similar group of the organism has similar characteristics. Study of organism and the evolution has become easier, and with the classification of organisms, their study and how they have evolved from their ancestors has also become easier. Now let us see the history of biological classification, how it started. Aristotle was the first to classify living things. He classified the living things into plants and animals. Among plants, he kept herbs, shrubs and trees. And animals were again classified into 2 groups on the basis of the presence of RBC, that is red blood cells, or absence of RBC. Carolus Linnaeus gave 2 kingdom system of classification. He classified organisms into 2 kingdoms. First kingdom Plantae and second kingdom Animalia. But there were certain drawbacks of 2 kingdom system classification. There was no differentiation between unicellular and multicellular organisms. That is, both the unicellular and multicellular organisms were kept in the same kingdom. Similarly, prokaryotes and eukaryotes were also kept together. That is, there was no differentiation between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Also, there was no differentiation between photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. Under the kingdom Plantae, plants, mosses, fungi and bacteria were kept. Some were photosynthetic and some were non-photosynthetic. So, there was no differentiation between photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. Certain organisms different from plants and animals cannot be kept under these 2 kingdoms. So, these were not included in this 2 kingdom system of classification. So, what we can conclude that this 2 kingdom system of classification was not sufficient. That means all the organisms were not kept under these 2 kingdoms. So, certain other kingdoms were also required. Hence, it was insufficient. So, this 2 kingdom system of classification has certain drawbacks. And also, there was lot of confusions regarding the classification of the organisms into 2 kingdoms. Hence, to overcome this, R.H. Whitaker came up with the concept of 5 kingdom system of classification, and till now it is the most efficient system of classification of organisms. There are a number of criteria or basis of the classification of organisms into 5 kingdoms. We will see them one by one. First is complexity of cell structure, that is whether the organism is prokaryote or eukaryote. Second, complexity of organism's body, that is unicellular and multicellular. Both the Monera and Protista kingdom included unicellular organisms. This we will discuss in detail later. Third is presence or absence of cell wall, that is whether the organism has cell wall or cell wall is absent. Fourth is mode of obtaining nutrition. How organisms obtain nutrition. Whether they are autotrophs, that is, prepare their own food, or they are heterotrophs, that is, they depend upon other organisms for their food. Further, autotrophs are classified into photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. Fifth is phylogenetic relationship and ecological role, that is, how these have evolved, whether they have evolved from the common ancestors or from the different ancestors, and what is the role that they play, that is the ecological role. Then sixth is reproduction, that is mode of reproduction, how an organism produce their offsprings, sexual mode of reproduction or asexual mode of reproduction. Now let us discuss this 5 kingdom system of classification with the help of flowchart. All the organisms, depending upon the cell type, are of 2 types, or we can say depending upon the complexity of cell structure, organisms can be prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Then comes the complexity of the organism's body, on the basis of which organisms can be unicellular or multicellular. All the unicellular prokaryotes are kept under the single kingdom known as Monera. This is the first kingdom of classification. If we talk about eukaryotes, these are also either unicellular or multicellular. All the organisms that are unicellular eukaryotes are kept under the single kingdom known as Protista. So this is the second kingdom of classification. Now the multicellular eukaryotes are further classified depending upon the cell wall. In some organisms, cell wall is present and in some it is absent. Organisms in which cell wall is present, these are further classified on the basis of the mode of obtaining nutrition. On this basis, these are 2 types: autotrophic organisms which prepare their own food and heterotrophic organisms which depend upon other organisms for their food. So all the autotrophic organisms in which cell wall is present are kept under the kingdom Plantae. This is the third kingdom, and all the heterotrophic organisms in which cell wall is present are kept under the kingdom Fungi. This is the fourth kingdom of classification. There are certain organisms in which cell wall is absent. These are kept under the kingdom Animalia. This is the fifth kingdom of classification, and all the organisms of the kingdom Animalia show heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So what we can say that there are 4 important criteria for the 5 kingdom system of classification. These are complexity of cell structure, complexity of organism's body, presence or absence of cell wall, and mode of obtaining nutrition. So if we compare these 5 kingdoms, we can say that organisms in the kingdom Monera are prokaryotes, and all the other kingdoms, Protista, Plantae, Fungi and Animalia, are eukaryotes. If we talk about complexity of organism's body, Monera, these are unicellular. Protista, these are also unicellular, and Plantae, Fungi and Animalia, these are multicellular. If we talk about cell wall, in Monera, cell wall is present, which is made up of peptidoglycan and mucopeptide. In case of Protista, cell wall is present in some of the organisms, which is made up of cellulose, but in others cell wall is absent. In Plantae, cell wall is present, which is made up of cellulose. In fungi, cell wall is present, which is made up of either chitin or cellulose. In Animalia, cell wall is absent. Mode of nutrition. Monera, these are autotrophic or heterotrophic. Protista, these are also autotrophic or heterotrophic. Plantae, these are autotrophic. Fungi, these are heterotrophic, mostly parasitic or saprophytic. Animalia, These are also heterotrophic. We will discuss the comparisons of these 5 kingdoms in detail in separate video. Therefore, on the basis of the flow chart, we can say that organisms are classified into 5 categories. These are Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. This 5 kingdom system of classification has certain advantages. In this, prokaryotes are kept in separate kingdom, that is kingdom Monera. Unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms are kept separate. And among the unicellular organisms also, prokaryotic unicellular organism has separate kingdom known as kingdom Monera, and eukaryotic unicellular organism has separate kingdom known as Protista. In this system of classification, autotrophs and heterotrophs are kept separate. Autotrophs which prepare their own food and heterotrophs which depend upon other organisms for their food. In addition to these advantages, there are certain disadvantages also. In the 5 kingdom system of classification, there is no place for viruses. That is, viruses are not included in this 5 kingdom system of classification. Similar organisms kept separately depending upon complexity of organism's body. So, depending upon the complexity of organism's body, certain organisms which are similar are kept under different kingdom. Example, there are separate kingdom for unicellular and multicellular algae. Now let us see the characteristics of these 5 kingdoms in brief. First is kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera includes prokaryotic organisms and organisms are unicellular. Some of them are autotrophs and some are heterotrophs. Being prokaryotic, these do not have nuclear envelope. These do not have membrane bound cell organelles. And mode of reproduction is asexual. For the movement, flagella is present. Second is kingdom Protista. This includes unicellular eukaryotes. Being eukaryotic, nuclear envelope is present. Also, these have membrane bound organelles. Some of them are autotrophic and some are heterotrophic. Then third is kingdom Fungi. These are multicellular and eukaryotic. So, nuclear envelope is present and membrane bound cell organelles are also present. The mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. Mostly fungi are decomposers. Cell wall is present which is made up of cellulose or chitin. Fourth is kingdom Plantae. These are multicellular and eukaryotic. So, nuclear envelope is present and these have membrane bound organelles. The mode of nutrition is autotrophic. These are photoautotrophic. That is, these use the energy from the sunlight to prepare their own food. For this, they contain photosynthetic pigment. This photosynthetic pigment absorbs the sunlight and use the energy of the sunlight to prepare their own food. Cell wall is present which is made up of cellulose and these are non-motile. These are fixed at their place. These are not motile. Fifth is Animalia. These are multicellular eukaryotes. Hence, nuclear envelope is present and also membrane bound organelles are present. These are heterotrophic in nature. That is, these depend upon other organisms for their food. Cell wall is absent, which is an important characteristic of kingdom Animalia. This is all for today's video. We will discuss about these 5 kingdoms in detail in series of videos. So stay tuned. In the next video, we will discuss about kingdom Monera. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it and subscribe my channel. Thank you.